Gordon, board president with Sea Glass Theater Company, here again to introduce the next in our Spotlight series. This week we feature soprano Ashlee Lamar. So let's kick it off. Tell me a little bit about where you grew up and what your first experience was with music.
Yeah, so I'm from Indiana, Pennsylvania. It's a smaller town kind of on the Pittsburgh half of the state. And my first experience with music, I mean, my parents have wonderful taste in music. So I just always was surrounded by kind of like 70s and 80s rock, along with kind of like 90s hits when I was growing up, not to age myself, but
okay.
So I kind of always just was singing along in the car, singing along with music playing around the house. And I think my parents really realized that it was something I loved. And they actually, I think it was for a birthday, they got me a little cassette player boombox with a microphone. And I took it everywhere. Like I took that thing to the grocery store. I was obsessed. And I would go put on little concerts for neighbors. I would take it to preschool and kindergarten with me and sing for everyone. I just loved it. And so really, I mean, I feel like I learned to sing by singing along with like Stevie Nicks, you know?
Oh, that's awesome. What fun. To have memories like that with family is really terrific.
Yeah.
And that's my music. That's my college and out of college music. So I can relate.
Yeah, it's the best. And I mean, my mom's side of the family, my grandpa, he always was playing piano at Christmas time when all the family would be there. And that was kind of my first introduction to more of like a classical side of music. And I just thought, I mean, this man is my idol. He's the coolest, like beautiful voice. Everyone in my family can sing. And I mean, he's still the coolest. So I had great taste at like age 5 of being like, wow, grandpa's the best.
Oh, you still, and he's still around? Is he still singing for you? Do you sing together?
We haven't, no, but I mean, I just would love, it's really hard for me being in Boston, there in Ohio. It's hard for me to get back for holidays now, just because, you know, holiday gigs, all of that good stuff. So, but I would love for that to happen. That would be so special to me, especially now. And I think for him too, they're some of my biggest supporters. So it would be really great.
Oh, love it. Love it. did you start? When did you decide you were going to sing for your supper, sing for a living?
Yeah. Well, I kind of knew in high school that I wanted to do something with singing. I think pretty commonly with most people, I was more on a musical theater track at that time, just because that's what we had at school. I was in all of the, audition choirs and, district, region, state chorus, all of that good stuff. And I kind of did the musicals. And I remember a music director came in to do one of our musicals. And at that time, I was just like, I'm going to be on Broadway. This is what I was made for. And she said, you might want to rethink that. And I was really offended. But what she meant was, you have a classical singing voice. Like, go do the thing, take voice lessons, see if you love it. And I spent like 2 years getting over the trauma of someone telling me that musical theater might not be for me. And then, a few years later, when I did my first opera, I was like, she was right. So, yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And where did you go? Where did you go to school?
So I went to Boston Conservatory for undergrad for voice performance with opera emphasis, and BU for grad school for voice performance, and then the Opera Institute.
A little familiar with that.
Yeah.
Little relative in there. So Pennsylvania to New England isn't such a big move.
No.
It's different, I'll bet, though. Indiana, Pennsylvania, and Boston, Mass. That must have been quite a switch for you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I kind of always knew I wasn't meant to be in a small town forever. And, I really was weighing my options of, do I want to be in New York? Do I want to be in LA? And Boston just seemed like a perfect fit to kind of make that move from a small town to a bigger city.
Yeah. So what do you do when you're not performing and studying and singing? What do you do in your downtime?
So I purchased a Peloton during quarantine, a Peloton bike. You can probably see it behind me.
I do.
Start the show in the living room. But so yeah, I got that around September, and I think I've done well over 200 workouts with it since September. I am obsessed, and it's been such a great way to kind of spend quarantine. But yeah, so I really love working out on the Peloton. I love journaling. I love kind of just finding new artists online. So yeah.
That's great. And do you have a side hustle that's not related to music at this point?
I do. So I've been in retail management for a few years, but I've kind of recently cut back from full-time to part-time with that, just to kind of really focus on my career. This is such a great time to really get things together as an artist without that constant, like, going to the next young artist program, prepping the next role. It's been really wonderful to just focus on the rep I love, get back into some song rep that I love, and, really just like find my voice again. And outside of that, I also have recently started doing social media and website management for my friend's new opera company that's coming up. So that's really exciting. And I'm also going to perform with them virtually coming up here. So yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah. That's such a great outlook and attitude to take on, looking more into what you can do beyond the pandemic and staying occupied that way. That's a really super positive.
Yeah.
Good for you. I bet the Peloton endorphins help that happen.
It has so helped. I will say, I mean, I think for everyone, all artists, especially creatives, really, we took a hard hit a year ago now in March, and I had so many wonderful upcoming things I was looking forward to. I was about to do my last performance at Opera Institute, which was a role and a show that was really near and dear to my heart that, of course, sadly had to be canceled. I was supposed to be a young artist at Glimmer Glass Festival last summer, which, I mean, if you know anything about auditioning as a singer, that's, I really had worked for years to get something like that. So, I mean, it was a hard hit, but I think definitely getting the Peloton, it's helped me just become more positive, and I kind of work out any of that negative energy every day. And I really discovered that this can be such a time of creative growth despite it all.
Yep. And a stronger body means a stronger performance, doesn't it?
Exactly.
That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about your most memorable performance.
Oh, geez. I'd say probably my most memorable at this point was my first Mimi in La Boheme, because it was my first kind of big role. It was the first time that I wasn't, the sister, the friend, the mother. And it was the first time that I kind of looked in the mirror before that first performance, and I said, this is the test. Like, can you do this? Can you go up and, remember it all? And it was the most music I'd ever had to have memorized at a time. At that point, that was probably, I think, 4 years ago now. But yeah, and I just remember after that performance being like, I can do this career. Like I can do this forever and make a living at it. So yeah, it's still so special to me.
Well, your reviews, when I was reading your website, your reviews are so specific to your ability to, with your diction, to enunciate and your acting abilities. It's just, I can't wait to see you perform live because the remarks were just wonderful.
Yeah, I love bringing a character to life, which you cannot do without text. We all know, but just bringing a character to life and kind of finding parts of myself in a new character is always such an exciting process for me. And, I've played a lot of kind of evil characters, just as many as I have sick, dying girls. And it's always fun to kind of unlock those parts in yourself and, discover some truths about yourself as a person too, maybe. So, yeah.
Love it. So that transitions beautifully to my next question. What's the weirdest gig you've ever had?
So I really had to think about this one because as singers, we kind of just, if a gig's offered up, we take it. I think the most bizarre experience, I was probably 18 or 19. It was pretty soon after high school. It might have been on a summer break after my freshman year. A group of friends and I got an offer to go to New York City and sing for this, kind of patron of the arts at a dinner party at their apartment. And, they had this beautiful kind of balcony overlooking the whole, like, it was gorgeous and very, very, high ceilings, echoey. I don't know if they really thought it through with opera singers. So we weren't being paid in money, but they were putting us up and also got us tickets to see a bunch of shows on Broadway. And it was super fun. And it was only really, like, I think my third or fourth time in New York City. So it was really awesome just to be there. And, we really jumped at taking that gig. And of course, the delicious food and wine that was there as well. And about halfway through the sets, you could kind of tell that the only person that was really an opera fan was the homeowner, and the rest of the friends at the dinner party, just all conversation would cease and they would just kind of be like, what's going on? And it was so echoey and loud in there. It was even hard for us to stay with the piano because of all the bounce back of our voices. So it was just a weird time. And about halfway through, they came up and they said, you know what? Why don't you guys just enjoy the rest of the night? Because I think we were, a little bit of a nuisance at their dinner party. But overall, it was such a fun time. It was a great time to spend with friends in New York, seeing shows. So why not?
So it'll teach you the way of entertaining in the future.
It's true. And Yeah, and maybe opera singers aren't aren't dinner party material if you live in a big echoey high ceiling apartment in New York.
Now about the dream. Do you have a dream performance, a dream venue, a dream
Yes.
forward?
Don't think I'm weird. I go back and forth. I kind of flip flop between Electra and Salome as dream roles. They're two of my absolute most favorite operas. But definitely Salome. That's kind of what introduced me to, the kind of crazy Strauss music. And I remember sitting in music history as an undergrad, not even knowing if that would end up being appropriate repertoire for me in the future. I was so young. I was 20 years old, and they played the Catherine Malfitano performance of Salome, just her final scene, that beautiful 20 minutes of music in music history. And I remember looking around and everyone was kind of like, a severed head? Like, what's going on? This is so bizarre. Like, this is weird sounding music. And I just was enamored. And that's when I knew. I was like, wow, maybe I'm weird for wanting this, but this is just the most thrilling music I've ever heard, with such a strange, disturbing story. I just love it. I just listen to it for fun. To me, it's truly probably the best 20 minutes of classical music that I think exists, in my opinion. It's a bold statement, but I love it. Yeah.
And isn't it better to be the only one in the room that falls in love with it so you can own it?
Exactly. Yeah. I feel like some people just don't get it, and that's totally fair. But yeah, I love it, and most people don't agree, but that's fine. It's my favorite music, and I haven't gotten to see it live yet. I feel like it's so hard to cast and so hard to do it in a big enough house with a big enough orchestra that it's not too often performed. But I did get to see Elektra at the Met a few years back, and oh my gosh, I was in the back row. I couldn't afford expensive tickets, and the voices and the orchestra just shake you down to your core. It's an indescribable experience seeing, really, really big, massive orchestra, massive voices in a massive house like that. I mean, yeah, world-class performance.
And the back row does a good thing for you because you realize in a big house, you can reach the back row if you've honed your craft the right way.
Yeah. It made me discover, I don't sing Elektra yet. I'm way too young for that, but I do hope to grow into it. But I left that performance and I came back to my voice teacher and she said, "Oh no, here it goes. You're going to ask me to start learning Elektra." And I said, no. I'm way too smart for that. And I was like, but her sister, Chrysothemis, has just this thrilling scene, just some of the most beautiful music I've ever heard. And the text with it and the way he sets it with the orchestration is just, brings tears to your eyes. So, so amazing. And I got her to reluctantly agree to let me start working on that. And now it's my starting aria and it's different. No one sings it. So it's kind of, like you said, like something I can really own and grow into. And I hope to study that role soon. So
that's how you build a brand.
Yeah.
Can't be like everybody else. So that's
right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. About your favorite non-classical musical artist.
I thought a lot about this. I have such an eclectic taste in music, but I think it does have to be Fleetwood Mac. I love Fleetwood Mac so much. It's so near and dear to my heart. It's the perfect music for me to listen to just, in downtime. I love Stevie. I feel like Stevie taught me to sing, as a young child. But I listen to a ton of stuff. I also really love kind of that pop punk music of the 2000s. I love a lot of current artists like Lana Del Rey. It's very eclectic. My Spotify playlists are interesting to say the least.
Well, that's always fun. And one thing for me about these spotlights as I'm learning about artists that I don't know anything about. So
Yeah.
I'm getting to expand my territory a little bit, which is fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. So tell me a little bit about your interest and your focus on contemporary composers.
Yeah. So, I mean, contemporary opera is the future of opera. And I mean, as much as I think it's so important that we keep tradition alive, and I would be happy to sing nothing but Mozart, Strauss, and Puccini for the rest of my life. It's beautiful music. This is the music that allows us to explore present day issues and talk about them and start those conversations and evolve both as humans and as an art form. So I think it really engages new audiences. I mean, look at how many non-musical theater fans, went to see Hamilton, because it kind of ties in history with current events. And, we started having conversations about maybe things that are uncomfortable to talk about. And that's so important for this art form to stay alive and for us to find new audiences of all walks of life. So yeah, I just love it. And so much of the music is just so rewarding to sing, so beautiful, and also quite challenging. And I love a challenge. Can't resist.
I think I might have seen you in Dolores Claiborne.
Yes.
You did that at Opera Institute, didn't you?
I did. Yeah.
What a show. I mean,
yeah.
that was
Speaking
awesome.
of difficult music, like that was some tough music, but I mean, it was such a rewarding process. And I mean, all of us, I think, just said, oh my God, I don't know if my voice can do these things, can meet these demands. And Matthew was so instrumental in kind of helping us through that process. And at the end of the day, we were singing our low Gs and our high Ds, and we had so much fun doing it. And it was so great to put together.
Such a great story too.
Oh my God. Yeah.
To your point about modern opera, you know, there are stories that really translate beautifully.
Yep. And often the ones that are the most uncomfortable to tell are the ones that really just mean the most.
Yep, absolutely.